to work in semi-darkness today.
Hey, Angelina, here. Can you hear me okay? Garrett, can you give me a thumbs up?
I can hear you, Chad.
Perfect, thank you.
We can hear you, Chad.
So this is the.
Yeah.
And test.
Chad's at the old. Chad.
Yes, ma'am.
Why don't you
Okay,
share
I just wanted to be clear.
Dawn, we're gonna leave them 3 minutes to speak.
Oh, somebody just muted the room. There we go. So 3 minutes?
3 minutes.
Okay, so is Commissioner Frank there? Is he handling?
Yes,
the-
he is. He got the short straw.
Okay,
He's practicing right now.
there's an edit button. Good luck with that.
Oh. An edit button. Okay. Do you need help, Dawn? All right.
There, I can do that, stopwatch. Ooh, look at that. 1 minute and 64 seconds.
Right.
So just push
Okay.
start. That's right.
You can do that. If you're kind of backwards.
Will that work?
Whatever, just so that we have it going.
Oh, I was expecting
Okay, does everybody have their phones muted? Reminds me.
Recording in progress.
Is Judy here? Okay. Is Judy there? You don't know?
Chad, is Judy on your screen?
No. Okay, okay, but is Garrett there? Okay. It's gonna be an interesting meeting. Okay. Ready? You got everything going?
Let me go right here. He's gotta do it.
Okay. Are you ready, Chad? Chad? Oh, this is gonna be, are
Yes,
you
ma'am,
ready?
I'm ready. Yep, we're
Okay.
ready.
All right. It's 6 o'clock, and I call the meeting to order of the Deer Park Planning Commission. Present for staff is Angelina and Chad and Garrett, I believe. Commissioners, Judy is not here. We received a request to excuse her. Do I have a motion to excuse?
So moved.
Terry has moved. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second from Russ. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay. Okay, Paulina is not here. Maybe she'll be here. All right, we have a consent agenda. The minutes from September 14th, the financial report from September 23rd. It did change. There is a correspondence, a letter from Tom Thies that's just very short and has to do with the trees. Do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented?
So moved.
Terry's moved. Those, do I have a second?
I read through it and there are a couple edits for Chad where I put Judy said something that it was Chad, so I asked if I could edit that.
Okay, so there are some edits. It's just the difficulty of getting the voices and that off the recording, so there's been some corrections, but the content is the same as just who said it,
Just the name. Yeah.
just the name on it, okay? So do I have a second on that motion?
Second.
A second from Russ. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay. All right, moving on. Paulina is here. The staff report. Do we have anything from Angelina? Do we have anything from Chad?
Not tonight.
Not tonight. Do we have anything from Garrett?
No, thank you.
All right. We have the goals list. Are there any additions, corrections, concerns with the goals list? None? Do I hear anything from anyone? No? All right, moving on, we'll just leave it like it is. Now is the time for visitors that would like to make any comments about anything that is not on the agenda. Jenny Hamer, you're just, okay. Is there anyone else that had anything to speak about anything that's not on the agenda?
I would like to say something if that's possible.
Oh. All right, I'm sorry, I can't see you, Tom, so.
Oh, hang on.
No, I can see you now, I just don't know.
Okay.
that you're there. All right,
Okay,
we do have your piece of correspondence, but go ahead.
okay. I'm glad you have that. Really, I wanted just to say that I commend everyone that has worked on this. This is just, it's a super ordinance. It's not, it kind of scared me at first because everyone was kind of talking about Cannon Beach ordinance, and it is so restrictive, it's almost impossible to go by. But that's really all I wanted to say, and just to have you look at that and see what you think about it. So that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Tom. All right, is there anyone else there? Assume there's no one else that wants to speak? Chad? Okay. Yes, ma'am.
Who do you sign in?
Well, you signed it when you came in.
No, I didn't.
Okay, all right. All right, moving on then.
Do we have a jet? Okay.
Yes, it was right at the top of your first sheet of your packet.
I got so much paper going around.
Okay, you should have it.
Okay.
All right, you got it. All right.
Mine was rained out.
Okay, so, I will open the public hearing on file 23-04 CUP conditional use approval request submitted by the city of Gearhart for city park property located at 321 First Street and Pacific Way, further described as Assessor's Plat 6.10.09 AA, tax lot 05200. Said request is to repaint part of an existing transport area to add to pickleball courts. I need to read a hearing disclosure. Okay. All persons testifying shall be deemed parties to the application and must provide their name and full mailing address if they wish to be notified of the decision, continuances, appeals, or other procedural actions required by the code. The city zoning code specifies applicable criteria to be relied upon in making a decision. Those criteria and findings of fact are in the city staff report. Public testimony shall be limited to those criteria and findings of fact or to other city or state land use standards that the person testifying believes apply to proposed land use action. Failure to raise an issue in person or in writing with sufficient detail to afford the hearing body and parties to the hearing an opportunity to respond to that issue precludes appeal to the city council or land use board of appeals, or to seek damages in circuit court due to a condition of approval. Before the conclusion of the initial evidentiary hearing, any participant may ask the planning commission for an opportunity to present additional relevant evidence, arguments, or testimony that is within the scope of the hearing. The hearings body shall grant the request by scheduling a date to finish the hearing, a continuance to a time and date certain, or by leaving the record open for additional evidence, argument, or testimony pursuant to ORS 197.763(6)A through E. Do any commissioners need to declare a conflict of interest in ex parte contact or personal bias?
Yes, ex parte. I visited the courts and.
You visit courts, okay. Paulina?
I have previously voted at the council level on this issue the first time. I don't feel any bias towards them.
Okay, okay,
Excuse
and
me,
yes, John.
I may have some bias, I'm not quite sure whether this is considered bias. I live almost directly across from the courts. So, you know, the noise issue is something that impacts me personally. I don't know if I should recuse myself from the vote or not.
Yeah.
I'd be interested in hearing how it impacts.
Why don't we move along, and if we get to a point where you feel like you need to recuse yourself, then go ahead and do that, and you can do that at that time.
Okay.
Because you don't hold gain anything financially, which is often a criteria. It's just other things.
Yeah, if nobody challenges him, which they haven't, then it's really up to him to decide whether.
Yes, he has to decide. However, we always want to keep that, know that, because we don't want to be challenged, and that's what he's trying to provide. Not provide, prohibit. Okay, I also visited the courts and walked around we have a sign-in sheet here, please, if you would sign it in if you intend to speak. Or if you just want to be notified of any decisions made. All right, from anyone else? Okay, I need to ask the audience now, do any of you challenge the commission's ability to make an impartial decision? See anything, Chad? No, okay. So it is time for the staff report. Garrett, are you there so you can speak to us?
Yes, thank you.
Okay.
All right, so I'll present the staff report, and some of this information, of course, for planning commissioners may feel redundant, but considering the amount of public interest, I want to make sure that we're providing like a sound basis and background for everyone in the room who's interested in this. So the staff report begins with some basic information about the site. So this is located at the city tennis courts at the corner of Marion Avenue and Pacific Way. The basic proposal is to modify one of the tennis courts, the eastern of the two tennis courts, to change it into 4 pickleball courts. The main impacts that the staff report considers that I'll get into a little bit later are noise, potential impacts are noise and parking. Currently surrounding the property on 3 sides are city streets. Beyond those, residential uses in every direction except across Marion Avenue is other city public open space. So the site is zoned for park and open space uses. It's in the park and open space zone. And in the city of Gearhart, the park and open space zone only allows tsunami hazard evacuation facilities as like a permitted use, where you don't have to go to a hearing for that. And in the park and open space zone, city parks may be permitted through a conditional use permit. And that's why we're having this hearing, is that basically this park hasn't gone through the process for a conditional use permit. So now that we're considering making modifications to it, particularly modifications where there's some potential public impacts. We're going to have it go through a conditional use permit process where the decision's entrusted to the planning commission. And so that's why we're here tonight. So the proposal doesn't have any bearing on outside agencies like state agencies that we sometimes refer to, but we did invite city staff to comment and didn't receive any comments with concerns addressing the approval criteria from city staff. We have received many public comments in writing, and they all came in after the staff report was finished. So we didn't address public comments in the staff report. But if there's any that Planning Commission wants me to address or respond to in questions, I'm happy to do that as we go along. So I'm going to move into the actual findings of the report. So now we're on the third page. In the park and recreation zone, again, park and recreation facilities are a conditional use. And so we're requiring a conditional use permit. And that just means that we have to have this public process and this hearing tonight. And the decision is in the hands of the Planning Commission. The park and recreation zone standards also say that an applicant is supposed to submit a site plan describing what they're going to do, and that the Planning Commission can make that site plan basically a condition of approval. Like you have to stick with this plan that was presented to the Planning Commission, and so that was provided by the applicant, and there's an image of it here on the third page of the staff report. And that's all that the park and recreation zone standards have to say about this kind of thing. The site is also in the tsunami hazard overlay zone. However, the overlay zone standards don't have any restrictions when it comes to park and recreation uses. Those are primarily intended to reduce risk to property and life from more permanent uses like housing or public facilities like schools. So moving on further on the fourth page, anytime we're doing a conditional use permit, we're considering potential impacts related to transportation. And there's specific standards in the code that we address here. So the first one is related to traffic impact analyses. This proposal doesn't meet the criteria for requiring an actual traffic impact analysis. The potential traffic that would be generated here isn't enough to do that. For example, 300 trips per day, in addition to what's being generated now. 4 pickleball courts aren't going to generate 300 trips per day, or 25 trips during the peak traffic hours of the day. So, so we're not doing a traffic impact analysis. Moving on to street access and spacing standards, the existing driveway is in an appropriate location that meets the criteria of the code. So there isn't anything to be done there. When it comes to parking and loading, the zoning code doesn't provide an actual parking requirement for public tennis courts or basketball courts or pickleball courts, the kinds of things that we have on this site. The zoning code does provide that the Planning Commission can create its own standard based on the requirements for similar uses. There is, interestingly enough, and in section 6.060 of the zoning code, a standard for private tennis courts where 2 parking spaces are required per tennis court. So that could be used potentially as the basis for requiring 2 parking spaces per pickleball court, for example. Alternately, the Planning Commission could find that that parking is not required, that when that requirement for 2 spaces per tennis court was adopted, they specifically used the word private or or commercial tennis court, and excluded public courts. And so that's that's the end of it. The staff report goes into a few different ways of looking at this, because there's those considerations, and then in addition to that, if the planning commission wants to require a certain on-site parking standard, the code provides that adjacent properties can be used to satisfy the on-site parking requirement. And because this site and the adjacent streets are owned by the city of Gearhart, and there's at least 18 street parking spaces adjacent to the site, it could also be a reasonable finding that that those on-street parking spaces could be used to satisfy any parking requirement that you create. And so that's going to be a point of discussion, I think, for the planning commission is parking. Finally, we'll move on to page 6 of the staff report. And this is the actual specific criteria for approving a conditional use. And it starts with the finding, or that the planning commission has to make a finding if they're going to approve this, that the proposal is consistent with the policies of the comprehensive plan. And so staff reviewed the comprehensive plan and other plans that are essentially part of the comprehensive plan, like the Park and Recreation System Master Plan. And in my reading of it, as you can see in the staff report, provided you with draft findings that the proposal is consistent with the policies of the comprehensive plan, particularly related to the development of outdoor recreation facilities for both the public, residents and visitors, and encouraging the private contributions towards the development of park and recreation facilities. The Park and Recreation System Master Plan discusses this site, and there's a way of looking at this that is in the staff report, which is that it's basic. It seems like it's open-ended, like you can use this site for pickleball, tennis courts, and we know that the city needs potentially more pickleball courts, and those could be provided at another site in the future. It doesn't close the door to doing it here, as I read it. And there's, I think, some other material that's been circulated in the last week and included in your planning commission packets with history on the last time that city council considered pickleball courts at the site, that you can also use in your deliberation and consider what the meaning of the Park and Recreation System Master Plan is. For the second criteria, a demand exists for the proposed use at this location. There does seem to be substantial demand, as at least documented by the applicant. The site is appropriate in so much as there's an existing surface for playing pickleball. And there's other existing supporting facilities, everything from a trash can to some parking, fences, and so in a sense, it's like easier and more suitable to have a use like this here than at a greenfield site that's not developed. And that's a criteria you'll have to deliberate over. And then the location, size, design, and operating characteristics of the proposal are such that the development will have a minimum impact on surrounding properties. This is where the issue of noise is discussed in the staff report. And so it is known, and there's, it's known that noise from pickleball is greater than noise from tennis. And it's primarily related to the noise that happens when a pickleball is hit by a pickleball racket or a pickleball paddle. And there's many studies online that document different levels of noise decibels And we chose not to actually get into the particulars of those because there's a lot of like acoustic engineering and really specific expertise that goes into that. And I can say, though, that it's safe to say that the noise from pickleball is greater than the noise from tennis. And clearly from public comments, it's a concern. So the applicant offered that some things that can be done to mitigate noise would be to restrict the hours of operation and to post a sign that states those hourly restrictions. I'd go on to say that the site does have a substantial amount of vegetation surrounding it that provides some noise mitigation. That's the extent of the mitigation that's discussed here. And the Planning Commission does have the opportunity to make findings that this proposal is not appropriate based on the impacts from noise, or to find that the proposal should be approved, but based on some set of conditions that need to be implemented to mitigate noise. So the fourth criteria that needs to be met is related to traffic. The use will not generate excessive traffic when compared to traffic generated by uses permitted outright, and adjacent streets have the capacity to accommodate the traffic generated. So there's some specific data that we provided in the staff report supporting a finding that adjacent streets have the capacity for any traffic that could be generated by 4 pickleball courts. And when it comes to comparing the traffic that will be generated from 4 pickleball courts to the uses that are permitted outright, which is temporary post-disaster shelters, debris storage, and heavy equipment storage, we don't have data on what kind of traffic those uses generate. That's a very unique it's a very unique situation to have a city zone where only post-disaster shelters, debris storage, and heavy equipment storage are permitted. And so that criteria, there's not a way to make that comparison as far as I was able to find. Public facilities and services are adequate to accommodate the proposed use. This proposed finding is brief. Basically, the existing facilities at the park do seem appropriate and capable of supporting 2 additional pickleball courts beyond what are there right now. And we don't anticipate any impacts on the city's larger public facilities like the water supply or police or fire service. And finally, the site's physical characteristics in terms of topography, soils, and other pertinent considerations are appropriate for the use. This is typically a criteria that comes into play in a really important way with new greenfield development, for example. Here, I think it's still applicable. And again, the idea is like this site, you don't have to disturb the soils. It's flat. There's already a court there, and the proposal is to change the use of the court. Finally, the site has adequate area to accommodate the proposed use, and that does seem to be the case. The Planning Commission will deliberate about parking, and that's relevant to this criteria number 7. So finally, if the Planning Commission chooses or is headed towards approving the proposal, there's conditions that can be placed on it. They have to be related to the approval criteria. And the staff report suggests specifically considering conditions related to parking and noise, if any. But the Planning Commission can make additional findings in that regard. And so the conclusion of the staff report recommends approval. The options in terms of the final motion that's made are to approve the conditional use permit based on the findings in the staff report with conditions of approval as may be modified by the commission, to continue the public hearing to a time certain date if requested by a party to the proposal or the commission, or if requested by a planning commissioner, or to deny the application stating why the proposal does not comply with the criteria that were reviewed here, or some other criteria that you identify that you think are important. So that concludes the staff report, and I'll answer any questions as we move on here.
Questions, John? John, questions?
Yes.
Terry, yes.
It appears to me that when you made your staff report, you relied mainly on the park plan and the comprehensive plan. Did you take into account any input from the neighborhoods or the citizens of Gerhart when you prepared your plan?
The public input that you have in the record there all came in after the staff report was completed.
Did you take into account the impact on property values around the pickleball courts?
No, the staff report did not consider impacts on property values one way or the other, whether they would go up or down or by how much.
Would you want to buy a house next door to a pickleball court that's open from 8 to 8 during the summer?
I haven't considered that question, and the staff report didn't address it, and I'm not gonna answer right now. It depends on a lot of factors. It could, you know.
Do you think the fact that pickleball has become a regional pickleball site, according to a quote in the Astorian, quote, players from Portland, Astoria, neighboring cities, New Haven, and even Tillamook that had a chance to play pickleball on Gerhart pickleball court? Gerhart has become a regional site to come and play pickleball. Did you take that into consideration when you made this staff report?
I took into consideration the comprehensive plan policy that says that that encourages the city to develop park and recreation facilities for residents and visitors.
Have you ever been to Gerhart?
Yes.
How many times?
I'm not sure, many.
Okay.
I've stayed in Gerhart too. I've had family friends that own property there. I'm not sure if they still do. I understand that comprehensive plan provision struck me as, well, it was surprising given many of the other comprehensive plan policies that tend to discourage development that's geared towards visitors. But there is that one, and it says that. So
I have nothing further.
Okay, Terry. Russ, anything? Alana, you have anything?
I don't have any questions right now.
Okay, I have a question for you, Gary. And you cited in here, the Parks Master Plan talks about, we have the pickleball court, the basketball court, the tennis court, but it says, and it quotes, I'll quote, "The city recognizes that there is a community demand for additional courts, tennis, pickleball, and basketball, or other sport courts, and it is possible that the city will be able to provide for such additional courts at some new park property at some point in the future." I'm wondering, is there a conflict here?
yeah, so when I read a policy like that, I try to just read the words and what they say, and you all, if you have more history or understand the intent of that policy from your time serving on the planning commission or on city council or being part of the planning process, you might have more insight there. When I read it, it's not much of a statement, and it says something that's true whether or not it's stated there anyway. It just says that the city may develop pickleball courts at some other site in the future at some time, which I think is like, well, yeah, you didn't even need to put that in the plan, actually. But I could see reading between the lines how someone might interpret that to mean that we don't want to do it at this site. But they didn't say that in the plan, and in a staff report, I'm not going to make that up and write that as an interpretation of the statement.
Okay, all right, thank you. All right, I will move on now to the applicant. So if you will give your name for the record, your address. Did you tell anything else? That's it. That's it.
Is it okay if I?
Yes, and you may use the podium.
Thanks.
Realize you are being recorded, so speak clearly, please.
Sure. Try to. My name is Wally Gamer. Raised my family here. Oh, to 312 Spruce Street, Earhart, right down there by the old elementary school. Raised my family here. Been here since 1989, in the community since 1975. My wife and I were school teachers here in Seaside, and we're PE teachers, so we always like to promote wellness and healthy activities. So I played tennis here in Gerhart from 1970 to about 1995, till our kids got a little older, or I got a little older. But I really enjoyed the courts, and I've always enjoyed them a lot. 4 years ago, we came to the city council and asked if they consider, putting some lines down for pickleball. It took a while, and we went through several meetings and stuff, and we were allowed to do that, and so that's where it started. It also started with, the issue at that time was with the tennis players, and there was one group of tennis players in this area that used those courts a lot. So we talked to them because we had a lot of friends that played tennis. And so we were always in communication with folks that played tennis. And so we were able to work out any of our issues. So what we did with Gerhart is we put the pickleball courts on one side and the tennis courts on the other side. And we had a professional come in and paint the lines and stuff. And so it really worked out well as far as that issue. Because I think the tennis players thought that they were going to lose their tennis court. And absolutely not. I mean, both my wife and I, we played tennis for years in this community. And we know the value of that sport. It's a great sport. And we always wanted to work together with them. As these last 3 or 4 years have gone on, yeah, pickleball has grown. It's grown nationally, internationally, it's grown a lot. And the fact that tennis hasn't grown quite as much in our community. And I don't know why. My viewpoint is a lot of the folks that in that group got old. And so pickleball is just a lot easier game to play for older folks. That's why I think it's grown a lot in popularity. There's a lot of benefits to pickleball. As you get older, my doctor tells me keep moving. Make sure you keep moving. So mobility is a real benefit. Sociability. Pickleball is a very social sport. It's unlike tennis in that respect, because I love doubles, and that's mainly what people play in pickleball. But I always love doubles tennis more than singles tennis, because you're standing right next to somebody and you're communicating with them. And I know a lot of doctors say keep that mental acuity going, and so it's an opportunity to be social, especially for older folks. And then the mental aspect of it. Yeah, I don't know if you guys have played pickleball, but keeping score it's hard when you first start. You have to use your brain. So there's a lot of real good benefit to playing the game. So I love being in this community of Gerhart. Lived here for a long time. and been active in the community, both Seaside and Gerhart. I love a community that will strive together. And that's why I brought up the whole tent, the 4 years ago when we came, there was unrest with the tennis community, but we worked out our issues. You know, we were able to strive together and work together for the benefit of our community. And that's why I'm here. I'm here for that and that alone. I just like people to work together and encourage people to recreate. You know, I don't know if you guys have been down there very often during the summer where we have some folks playing. Yeah, we do get some people that vacation here in Gerhart. They come to play, you know. So that adds a few more people, but they're just, you know, they're just here for a while and they're gone. But we want to encourage people to recreate in our community. And kind of to go back to what you were saying, Terry, about regional, I don't know. I don't know if anybody in Gerhart made that comment because this isn't a regional site. This is mainly a community site to play pickleball. And like Garrett said, this is part of the comprehensive plan to encourage the development of recreational facilities in our community. So that's another reason why I really appreciate 4 years, 3 years basically, because we've been playing pickleball here in our community for 3 summers. And you know, but it took us 4 years to kind of look at it and figure it out. So I want to live in an inclusive community, not an isolated community. I know there's complaints about the noise, and I totally understand. And I totally want to listen to any complaint and value any complaint. I'm not here to be divisive, want our way is the highway. That's not the attitude any of our pickleball folks have. You know, I really feel strongly about that. And it was the same way when we played tennis. Everybody enjoyed the opportunity to recreate. So I just want us to be able to work together. If there is a problem, if there is an issue, let's look at it and see if we can figure it out. That's the main thing I love about being in the community. Yeah, we work together to find a solution. Our pickleball folks, we will do whatever it takes to answer any complaint that comes our way and do it with class and positiveness. I know, because I've researched this, a lot of people in our state, there's been issues with the noise level. A lot of those places, they had lights. People were playing till all times of the night. We could easily, if the gate was working at the park, which it's not, it hasn't been working for 2 years, you could really regulate the times that people play. And really, you guys, this is a seasonal sport. We can't play there probably six, 7 months of the year. So it's not, it's more seasonal than anything else.
So for that reason.
We can't, like I said, we can't play at night, and we wouldn't want to, because I understand the noise thing and understand that we're in a neighborhood, but it is a public park. We would do whatever it takes to help reduce the sound, like was mentioned. You know, if that meant saying we could play from 9 to 5 or 10 to 6 or 10 to 4, whatever the planning commission, whatever regulation you guys want to do, you know, or I've seen some places where they put those grids inside the fence to lower the sound. You know, I hate to say this, but it's gonna happen. USA Pickleball has listened to the complaints. USA Pickleball is one of the top organizations, and they're coming out with a ball that isn't as loud. And so I think that's a real positive move on their part. Well, part of living in a community, there are all kinds of sounds. I walk Gerhart a lot, and I hear birds, I hear elk, I hear motorcycles streaming through our city, I hear trucks down at the beach pulling through our city. I hear kids laughing at the new park. I hear people in their backyards talking and laughing and having fun. I just think that that's part of a healthy community, just like recreation is a part of living in a healthy community. These are all those sounds are sounds of a healthy community. So our proposal, which was, Garrett did a really good job, our proposal is to put 2 additional courts on one side and leave tennis alone, because we want, we've communicated with all the tennis people in our community, and that's what they've said. Adding more pickleball lines on a tennis court just really messes up a tennis court. So if we could keep it all on one side, leave tennis for their activity, I think everybody would win. But I think we also have to value the complaint of the noise, and we're very willing to do whatever that takes. Well, I've been living here in our community for about 50 years. I've spent a lot of time working on fields for kids, developing ideas for our community for recreation. And I'm just really proud of our community and the care they take. For me, like I said, I don't want to promote anger. I don't want to I'm not promoting divisiveness. I'm just trying to promote recreation, an opportunity for all people to recreate, older, younger. I mean, my grandkids started playing pickleball when they were 5 and 6 years old. So that's what we're here for. And we'll do whatever it takes to help with that and work with you on that. So appreciate the time.
Thank you, Mr. Hamer. I like your purple post-it notes. Do any of the commissioners have questions for Mr. Hamer at this time? Fine.
You mentioned something about sound buffering.
Yeah.
Could you describe that again?
Well, I've just gone to other tennis facilities, mainly tennis facilities, but it would work really good for pickleball facilities where you put the slats inside the chain link fence, and that inhibits the sound. Plus, the one other little thing that I'm not sure if Garrett said, we're asking for the east side. We're actually on, if you look, it says the west side. And this is a suggestion from the guy that does your resurfacing and they put the lines down. His name is Alex Havens. He suggests it goes on the west side because when the courts are on the east side, there's that wall right there. It just echoes off that wall. The noise echoes off that wall. But if you put it on the other side, you guys have really good landscaping around that. So I think it would help, or the buffering might help too. You know, with any solution we could come up with, the buffering might really help.
I have a question.
Sure.
How do you
Oh,
equate?
Mary,
Can I say something really quick?
yes,
Can we make sure that nobody talks over each other? I had a really hard time with minutes last time. When people talk over it, it mixes and then I don't know who's saying what.
Barry.
How do you equate the sound of birds and laughing children to pickleball sounds? That's difficult for me.
Okay, well, I understand what you're saying. There's a higher decibel, but if you walk around, there's all kinds of sounds. You know, and that's, you know, it's kind of how you look at it. But I understand pickleball is louder than.
There's also people that.
Liz.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, so that's a good question. You know, you probably can't quite equate it, but it's the same idea. I mean, you know, you go down the beach during the summer. My goodness, there's a lot of sounds going on.
But there's a difference between a sound on the beach and a sound across the street from a house.
Yeah, well, like I said, you know, I think there's ways that we could help with that. I mean, we definitely try to help with that. And we put in our application that, you know, maybe we try it for a couple months and it's not working. We just find a solution to it, not, you know, like we did the first time with the tenants. We found a solution. And all your questions are really good. So, yeah.
Anything else, Barry?
No.
One,
Yes, Paulina?
what is the average wait time, let's say, 1 o'clock in the afternoon in the summer,
For people
for people to
to
get off?
play,
the
to play pickleball. I'd say, you know, we have the ability to have 8 people at a time right now. It's probably 15 minutes. That's the average wait time. That's why we're coming to you, to be honest with you. The wait time takes a while to get on the court.
More than 15 minutes.
Sometimes it just depends, but one thing I didn't say to you guys, that there's not gonna be any more people that come into Gerhart to play pickleball. We're just trying to help the people that do come, you know, that are coming right now, which, you know, if there's 20 people on a court, or 20 people there,
Excuse
Can
me,
we not talk, please?
if there's 20 people there playing, so you got 8 playing, that's 12 sitting out. So there's 4 people that it might take them 30 minutes to get on. Now, so it's a long way, but you know.
all right, so let's go to John first. John?
Can you just clarify the statement you just made about there won't be any more people coming to Gerhart?
Yeah.
Just because I don't understand that assertion.
Well, I know it's kind of hard to understand, so if 20 people are showing up, which sometimes in the summer, that's what happens. You know, maybe 16 to 20 people, well, they have to sit out, but there's not gonna be 20 more people coming if you add 2 more courts. You're just dealing with those 20 people.
Well, I don't accept the assertion, but we'll leave it at that.
Well, I've played there many times, and that's where I've come to the understanding of how that works.
Demand for courts is associated with people's recognition regionally as to how much availability there is.
Yeah, but we just don't get a lot of people regionally, to be honest with you. Honestly, there might be a couple. I know you got that article, but to be honest with you, the people that play there on a regular basis the last 3 years would tell you the same thing I'm trying to tell you. You're not adding a bunch more people. A bunch more people are coming in.
Terry, did you want to say something?
Yeah, I just had another question. You said there's a 15-minute wait, you have 20 people waiting. That for me doesn't equate.
Well, okay, so there's 20 people. Right now we have 2 courts. That's 8 people that can play, so there's 12 people sitting out,
Right.
waiting. So there's about 15 minutes till those people get on. Well, since you can play 8 people at a time, there's 4 others that are waiting. So that's probably another 15 minutes for them to wait.
How long does a game take?
It depends on the quality.
Give me an idea.
Yeah, 15, 20 minutes maybe at the most 30 minutes.
I have nothing.
Okay, Don, do you have anything?
I do. Well, I know you've done a lot of efforts in this area for recreation, and I do appreciate that. I know a lot of other people, so thank you for all of that. Specifically though, I have a few questions.
Sure.
You said the USPA,
USA Pickleball Organization. USA.
Okay.
Pickleball.
Is coming up with a quieter ball. What's your guess on the timeline?
Since they say you can buy them right now. It's called the Monarchs /6 or something.
Have anybody that you know used those?
I haven't used them, but I'll order them and
Okay.
see for sure.
So, but that's how they're selling. It's acquired.
Yeah,
Because
they had the complaints.
Because nationwide or
It is.
internationally, wherever.
Yeah.
It's an issue.
Yeah.
Okay. You did kind of discuss mitigating the noise by moving the court to the east,
Mhm.
right? So off the echo wall, and then as the plants and the trees grow, that'll take away some of the noise, I presume,
I
right?
hope.
And maybe even that fencing, I think that's a
Yeah,
a good
the
idea.
buffer.
Garrett mentioned other site options in your heart as that. Do you have any ideas on that?
Sure, I mean, it'd be awesome if we could find another site, but just like with fields in our community, there's not a lot of flat land. And then the expense would be great. I don't know, I mean, we helped out, we had a gal that we taught with at Seaside High School, who donated $5,000 to our pickleball, gave it to the city, and that's how the lines got put on in the first place and the nets. She helped and the city helped, which we're very thankful, but it'd be an expensive venture. And we'd have to find a piece of land to do that.
Just on a side note, we probably haven't seen as many people in this room since we were dealing with the rezoning of the school, right? In a couple of these letters, people brought up the idea, well, why don't we put it at the school? And I know that's not anybody in this room's decision, I don't think. But that is an option that has been talked about in the past, is a school being used for recreational purposes, but that's a side note. That's just my editorializing. You mentioned, regulation on hours. Maybe, when I was there to visit, I actually chatted with Andrew and a couple other players about creating a plaque that had a statement of hours and etiquette. Those kinds of things.
It's in the works. We gave it to the city, maybe 3 or 4 months ago. And I talked to Chad about a couple of weeks ago, and he said it's almost ready to signage to explain the etiquette and the hours, and I think that's definitely you guys, it's your call as far as the hours, the city's call and the hours, to me.
You said the gate is broken?
The gate's been
What's
broken.
wrong with the gate?
I guess it won't roll. I've asked Chad about it. It broke a couple of years ago. It's been 2 years since they locked it down, because they were locking it down at, I think Jeff was locking it down at 8 PM.
So that'd be my next question, is who would be responsible for locking?
But that would lock out the tennis players too.
Well,
No, but shouldn't it be the same? Shouldn't it be, the time should be the same for everybody, shouldn't it?
well, I would 100% agree with that, absolutely.
Well,
But the point is just, the gate needs to be fixed, and if we did put hours in, who would be responsible? I mean, I don't think it'd be you, right?
I mean, I live close. I do whatever you guys ask to make it happen.
What if nothing changes? What if it's exactly, I also play pickleball, much later in the afternoon when it's the easier players. But what if nothing changes? What if it's the status quo?
You know what? Right now, you guys make the decision, we'll stand behind it. If you said, whatever you guys say, we'll do. I would just hate to lose those 2 courts. Because there's, it's recreation for a lot of people in this community. But I'm not gonna go home, lose any sleep over it. To be honest with you, Jane and I, we put in hours on this thing, so whatever's good.
I know you have. Then the last question I had, which you talked about, inclusion, and you're aware of most of the issues in the letters, and probably some people here,
Yeah.
specifically about the noise.
Sure.
And so besides the things you already mentioned, all the vegetation and the fence and the hours, I mean, how would you want to work out those issues with the neighbors?
Well, I think, John was mentioning those close. One thing we could do is honor those neighbors and talk to them about it. I think that's a good idea, to see what we could do to help that process. I think that's a really good idea to communicate. I don't know if you guys are aware, but Astoria just built, you guys know where Peter Pan Park is? They just did a fantastic job of doing exactly where they asked for 4 courts. They put the permanent nets in and a tennis court. They just did a fantastic job of that. But I think they went around and canvassed the neighbors and made sure, and their neighbors were all good. But I think we need to value what the community is saying, the people are saying. That's the way I view it. We got to look at the whole picture, not just pickleball, not just noise. We got to look at the whole thing.
I think that's why we're here. That brought up one more question. So can you explain the difference or the benefits, pros and cons versus 4 permanent courts versus, let's say, just replicating on the west court what is already on the east court?
Yeah, well, it's a hard one. I mean, of course, the best thing would be to have 4 permanent courts. But, you know, that is not a killer. If you guys say, no, we don't want 4 permanent courts, that's not gonna wreck anything. You know, if we had 4 lines, we just do what we've been doing. The city has paid half and we paid half for the nets. That, you know, that donation that was made. That's what we've been doing the whole time. But what, again, I think, I don't want to speak for everybody, but, you know, we're just here to see if something good could happen. And if it's 4 permanent nets, fine. If it's 4 temporary lines for courts, fine. If it's 2, you know, it's 2, it's good. Okay, thank you.
Okay, Don. Russ? Oh, I don't have anything? Oh my gosh. Yeah, I had a question. My head always goes this way, cost.
Good.
I know that the city got a grant, but I know the city got a grant to resurface, not to restrike.
Yeah.
So who is,
Oh, no, I stopped and asked about that specifically because I was worried that we were gonna lose those. They said it was resurfacing and restriping, whatever.
as it is now?
Yeah, as it is
As
now.
it is now.
Yeah.
But there's a cost if it's maybe not to restrike to 4 courts, but additional nets, the signage. Right now, there is at the court, there are 2 very badly faded signs
Yeah.
that say, I think it says tennis only, no skateboarding, but I don't know what else it might say on there because they're literally white,
Those are really old.
really old. So who's gonna pay for those?
Well, like I've been saying all along, is that that donation that came in,
Right,
we paid, she paid for half the striping
okay,
and half the nets, and the city paid for the other. That's how we did it before.
okay. So do you have more funds
Yeah,
to help with?
there's like 32, I asked Justine the other day, there's like $3,300 in there. It's not gonna cost
Okay,
that much to put 2 more courts in. The resurfacing, unless you put the permanent nets in, that's the biggest cost.
well,
But if
isn't
you
that what
did-
you're asking for?
That's our ultimate.
Okay. You're asking for permanent for pickleball courts.
Yeah, but that's our ultimate. That's what, that would be great, but, you know, it doesn't have to happen that way. If you did the 4, just line the 4 courts in, it would be much cheaper.
Okay.
To go, because you're gonna resurface it anyway. You got the grant to resurface it.
So up in Highlands, they have 2 pickleball courts. Garrett, sorry, it's more pickleball courts in Gerhart. And they put pony walls between the courts. My concern is that putting 2 pickleball courts side by side, they're gonna be wider than the current tennis court. They've got to be.
Close. Yeah, you're right.
Okay, but
Maybe
they-
a little bit.
Is that going to then start crowding, because if you have pickleball player going this way and tennis player going this way,
Yeah,
is,
you know,
I'm concerned about that.
yeah, that's a good concern. I mean, we play all the time at, you know, when the weather gets really bad, we play indoors at Broadway and the nets are stacked right on top of each other. And, you know, I mean, you just don't run in to people, but that's the same kind of thing as what you're example you're using with tennis and pickleball, but I, so, you know, that could happen.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, it could happen.
Okay. Not to burst your bubble, but according to the internet, an average pickleball game goes 30 to 75 minutes. You're saying the average pickleball game in your heart goes 15 to 20 minutes? Is that what?
But
They're short, huh? Okay, so either, I looked it up because I'm going, how long is it?
it's a good, yeah, good look up.
All right.
Ginny,
Yes,
there
Don.
can be differences that at your area, you know, you play one game, you don't play a set.
Hmm.
So,
Oh.
like in
mhm.
tennis, a set, and then probably in proper pickleball, you play a whole set, that can, I think, take about that. My understanding, you play
So-
one game at a time and switch.
So then I go back to Mr. Hammer. You just play one game or you play
No, you play one game to 11
right?
and then you rotate. But that
Okay.
one game to 11 depends. It could last 15 minutes, it could last 20 minutes,
Okay,
25 minutes in there.
but
Just depends.
those two or four people that are there, do they know they need to leave the court?
They do.
They do, okay.
Now we follow the rules.
Okay, I have no idea.
Yeah.
All right. One more time, any more questions? Yes, Paulina.
I need a clarification on this proposal, and I'm hearing temporary and I'm hearing permanent. And is that specific to the nets only? Because I can't imagine that striping is not permanent.
Yeah, the striping will be permanent. It's the netting. If we went for the ultimate, the netting is permanent. You have to drill the sides down into the surface. But temporary would be stripe the 4 courts. And then we bring in nets like we do right now. We have those 2 courts, we have 2 nets.
Right there.
Yeah, so that's how we've been doing it. It's just we bring a temporary net in, roll it off. Roll it on, we play, roll it off.
And currently is the court also double striped for tennis?
Mhm.
And so that's the reason that we're using temporary netting in my mind.
That's one, yeah.
Part of the process back then.
Well, it's cheaper, it's a cheaper way to go. Doing the temporary, if you're just putting the lines down, you're saving yourself a lot of money, and the nets that we just got, are as expensive as the permanent nets. Yeah,
Thank you.
good question.
All right. So moving on for the applicant. Now we'll go through the public input. I will first call for proponents, then I will ask for opponents, then I will ask for neutral comments. And like I said before, I have no idea what it means by neutral comments. You don't care, I don't know. At that point, the applicant will have a chance to rebut anything, to answer any of those questions. And then, depending on how it goes, I will continue or close the public hearing, and then the commission will have a discussion. So, proponents. First on my list is Andrew Stein. If you would like to say anything, just wait a second, Andrew. If you want to say something, please stand up at least. You don't need to come up to the podium. Give us your full name and your address. If you have written a letter, please do not read your letter. We've been able to see them, but if you have some new information to give us, that's what we would appreciate at this time. Okay, so Andrew?
Jenny, sorry, you'll have 3 minutes.
You'll have 3 minutes, I'm sorry,
And
and
15 left to go, I'll save you.
Mr. Frank will be timing to the best of his ability.
I just want to thank Wally for everything he's done, but
Address.
to my name, West Gershel Circle in Europe.
Thank you.
Wally's done a great job. Ginny has helped him. We have a community of pickleball players. There are about 20 of us that all live in this area. And we have 1 person or 2 people that send out a text almost every day saying, who wants to play a gear arbor tomorrow at 2 o'clock or 1 o'clock or whatever. And we get responses anywhere from like 6 to 20 people. And it could be on a nice day that we get 20 people out there. But we only have the 2 courts. So like Wally said, we have 12, 14 people standing around waiting to rotate in. You play your 1 game and you go sit down and the next 2 or 4 people come in. What we're asking for is kind of confusing, like Paulina said. Ultimately, we would like 4 permanent courts on the west side of the facility now. That would be the ideal situation. Worst case scenario is that we just duplicate what we have right now with stripes painted and 2 new temporary nets. So if we have 20 people out there, do the math, there'll be 16 of us being able to play. And if any tennis players show up, we'll yield to the tennis players and just roll the nets out of the way. That's all I got.
Okay, thank you, Andrew. No proponent, I have, Jay, you said you weren't going to speak, is that correct? You just.
Oh, I can. Am I still?
Would you like to speak? You
Sure.
may speak. Please stand and give us your full name and your address, even though it's the same as the app.
My name is Jenny Hamer and I reside at 312 Spruce Avenue in Dearborn. And I was part of Wally's helper in proposing this plan. Lived here for close to 35 years, playing tennis and pickleball. And what I would like to see with Earhart is to be a real inclusive community. And I think the perception of, and following the master plan of enhancing our recreational facilities. I feel like sometimes our perception of what a community is different, and I hope that we could come together to make it a healthy community. The sights and sounds that I hear running, walking, biking through all the neighborhoods in Seaside is a real joy to me. It's a joy to hear those sounds because it means that my community is alive and it's thriving, and I feel proud to be here. And it makes me feel joy. I have joy, pure joy about it. And so I think the perception of community is probably a little bit different, and our conflict between isolation and inclusiveness is a little bit different. Everybody has different perceptions. And I find joy with it, and I found joy for over 30 years, and I wanted to keep doing it for another 30 years. And I thank Wally for all that he's done. It's been a monster. And anybody that knows him knows that he's true to his word. He's been an athletic director, a coach, and a teacher, and if he says, I would like to work with you, he will work with you. And if he says, I want a positive community, that's what he'll strive for. Anybody that knows him knows that he doesn't have a negative bone in his body. And I know, I live with him and it's hard, because I want to be negative at times, so it's hard. So I just thank anybody that has had a part in this, and I hope we can continue to work together.
Thank you. The next one I have on my list, that was Liz Carter.
Hi, my name is Liz Carter. I live at 4565 Drummond Court, Gearhart, Oregon. And I don't have as much new information, but to clarify kind of questions, I think from both Ginny and from Paulina, when you were discussing the length of the game and how that all goes, we don't necessarily play one game and leave. But what we have is this little grid where we stick, if there's a lot of people there, we stick our paddles in. And we're all very good about, once you finish your 1 game to 11, if there's other paddles waiting to go in, then the people that are on the court leave and the next people that are waiting go in. And so we play 11 points in a row, but we don't necessarily play for 15 minutes and then take off and leave. We may then, when our paddle gets back up, we may go back in and play another game or two. For clarification, I don't know if that's
okay.
There was one other point I wanted to address about this being a regional area for pickleball. As Wally said, there are 4 courts that were just opened and built in Astoria. I know there's some beautiful courts in the Nehalem, Manzanita kind of area, and there are lots of people that play there. And I just wanted to clarify with what Wally said, we do have people every once in a while that show up from out of town on a weekend, but they're usually coming here to enjoy the beach and do other things. They're not coming here specifically to show up and play pickleball. So I agree in the sense that building more courts doesn't mean more people are going to come to play pickleball. I think it's just people that are at the beach may sometimes come and join in to play pickleball. I don't know if that clarifies or answers any questions.
Thank you. Liz.
Thank you all for being willing to work.
Can we pause for a second?
Yes,
I just lost service.
okay.
So,
Everyone breathe in and breathe out. Or whatever else you wanna do.
I'm back. We're good. Keep going.
Okay, you're back. Thank you. Liz, I had a question for you.
Yes.
How long have you waited usually to get a pickleball court?
Well, it depends on the day. And we're all,
Average,
some days no wait.
okay?
Other days, if it's a busy summer day, you may end up waiting a while, but because we have this system to put our little paddles in, we usually welcome, you know, when somebody comes, they stick their paddle in and then they join the next game. And so you may end up waiting 15 or 20 minutes until your game comes up, and then your paddle goes to the end of the, you know, the thing that. Again,
Other people that don't mess.
I just was curious. All right, my next person I have, that's a proponent, Eric Friedman, is that right?
Yeah.
Okay, can you please stand and repeat your name and your address?
Eric Friedman, 454 West Herschel Circle. I've lived here since 2019. This is our home. I live in the community. I work in the community. I work with the residents. I work with their group, and I would want to know that it is a very social sport. It's a family sport. So I would like to just add that a lot of this is talking about our group of 20, but there's other friends and they bring friends. And especially in the summer, there's lots of times where people will come down with their own group of 4 or 8, and they'll be on a court. So there could be 2 other people grouping court. We send out our group text of 20 people, and we get there and there's already 20 people there. And then we turn around and go home, which has happened multiple times. During the summer, you never know. So we try and play, we can wait 15 minutes. We have our system, but if someone comes down and they have a family of 4 playing, they're gonna stay on that court. We can't make them leave. They're not part of our group, and they may not follow our, you know, own etiquette. And to be honest, they come down with a family of 4 and they're visiting and they have a house here or something. They may not want to leave or, you know, defer their time off to a group of 18 or 20 that show up. Also like to address the temporary nets. One of them sitting right there because it's broken. And that's what all the temporary nets will do in a year. Because there's no place to store them on the inside. And so they just get battered by the weather. The additional advantage of what Wally said, and he did a tremendous job, and I want to personally thank him and Ginny, is that having 4 permanent courts allows the free use of the other tennis court without allowing, you know, 3 people, maybe 3 groups playing pickleball, then someone wanting to leave if a tennis court player comes. Again, we would be willing to do that, but we're not the only ones that play there. Lots of other people play there who are residents, aren't part of a group, who are people visiting, or people who have friends that come down. There's lots of people that have part-time homes here that come down. So I would ask, as a social and family sport, we also play with friends, neighbors, family members, to ask the commission to give this a strong consideration to Wally's proposal. And I want to thank everyone for their time and serious consideration.
Thank you. The last one I have on my list, Bona, is Evangeline Buckley.
Hi, I'm Evangeline Buckley, 5363 Drummond Drive in Gerhart. I want to thank Wally and everyone from our pickleball community. It is a very, and all of you for listening, it is a very social sport. It's a very fun sport. It is a park area for recreation. I think all the points that I was going to make have been discussed. I was going to ask Wally, is it possible if 4 courts don't get approved, is it possible to do 3? So we'll take 1 more at least, because I have gone to play and there are too many players and I'm just sitting around waiting. sometimes, and then I'll end up, if I don't have the time to wait, I end up having to leave because I have a commitment at home to our son, so I can't just sit around and wait for hours. So, I'm a proponent, I'm in favor for more sports, it's a great sport, come out and play if you haven't, it's really fun. Thank you all.
Thank you. Is that all the proponents? Yes, oh, are the proponents out in the Zoom world?
We had
I'm
one
not
hand
sure.
raised earlier.
Okay.
Yeah, it was somebody with the name of
DBPX.
X1, yeah.
I'm an opponent.
That's it, opponent. Okay, so do we have any other proponents? Sorry, I'm not able to see anything, so.
No, nothing there, man.
All right. So and everyone else is either opponent or something else, right? All right. So the first opponent I have is Ellen Gadsby.
That's me.
Would you like to speak?
Well, I didn't sign up to speak, but since so many others have.
Well, your name is here. If you would like to speak, you may speak.
So I'm at 873 Wellington. I am not a full-time resident.
Wellington, where?
Gearhart.
Oh, okay.
I've been there for
Oh, you got-
45 years.
Got it.
I'm not a full-time resident. I'm here about half the time. I used to play a lot of tennis on the tennis courts. But injuries get to you, and I would like to play pickleball. I have nothing against pickleball. I think I'm all about sports. I'm all about people being athletic. All of that is fine. My biggest concern is, there are two. One is, I'm not clear about the existing tennis court. They're going to do the pickleball courts, move them to the west. This is the suggestion. And the existing pickleball or tennis court that has pickleball lines on it, will those pickleball lines be removed?
Yes.
Yes, okay, so if somebody's talking about if tennis people come,
They have a tennis court to themselves.
and no pickleball going on, okay, well, that's very nice. My other question, you all seem to be enthusiastic, wonderful people and enjoy life. But I don't understand how you can disregard the noise that permeates the air. This is not birds. This is not a motorcycle that just goes by. It goes on and on. And I'm a walker. I see who's there. I see how many people are there. It's great. You're all having a great time. But what if you lived next door and your outdoor space is threatened? You want to go out for coffee in the morning. It's just, it doesn't stop. And I don't live there. I'm on Little Beach. But I think you really need to listen to the people who have written letters. I don't know if any of you who's had enough time. There were 40 letters written, probably in the last, 72 hours against having the pickleball courts. And most of them spoke to that because of the noise. And that's a community coming together, and we are a community. You pickleballers are part of the same community that the people that live by the tennis courts are part of. And so you can't disregard their wishes. They don't have a choice. They're there, they bought into tennis, but not pickleball. And so I hope that the commissioners, because you're the ones that are gonna make the decision, will listen to what the comprehensive plan and the master plan say over and over in there. It talks about
15 seconds.
the environment of Gearhart, the beauty of Gearhart, the natural parts of Gearhart, what we're here for. It's quiet, it's solitude, it's wonderful to go outside on your back porch, or on your front porch. You shouldn't have to listen.
Thank you. Thank you. The next one is Jerry. I can't read.
It's Jerry Coffey.
Coffee.
Okay, and he's gonna decline.
That's fine, that's fine. Is it COFFEY? Is EY? I'm sorry, it's just a little hard to read, so I'm going to. fix it here. No telling whether they can read my writing either. Okay, next one I have on the list is David Russell.
I put a letter in and
Right.
I thought I
Did-
was just noting my attendance.
Thank you, David. Wilson Mark,
Same thing, there's a letter.
okay, all right, that's fine. Connie Colbert? Got that right?
Yes, my name is Connie Colbert. I live at 323 South Marion. I too have been here since 1987. So I've seen the community develop. I have no issue with pickleball, except it makes a lot of noise. Now, there is a lot of vegetation around the court, this is true. And on the way to my house, there's even more vegetation, and there's a big hill. And we get all the way down to South Marion, and we still hear the pickleball. And the other day, I came up from Little Beach on South Marion, and I could hear it at the top of the trail. So the noise is there. Now, for me, the noise doesn't bother me that much, but I know it's a real irritation to people that are trying to have guests over and be outside in their yards. I can even hear it in my house when I'm home, and pickleball, it took me a long time to realize that it was pickleball, because I kept thinking, well, the tennis, I didn't realize that pickleball had become so popular in Gerhard. And for those of you who play pickleball, I think it's wonderful that you do that, but you should know that the people that are instructing other people in the community that want to know, they're telling them Gerhard has open courts. So that's a problem for you guys. The other thing I want to say is about the time that you have to wait. I too taught and was an athletic director, and I've been in poverty areas. And what you do is you have to wait your turn. And in that case, like basketball especially, you wait your turn on the court. And when it's your turn, you get to play winners. You guys don't even have a winner thing set up, is what I'm saying. You just all leave, is that correct? Okay, so maybe you should think about that, putting it to a winner thing, and then at least you get more time on the court. But the noise is my main concern, and to my neighborhood and everybody in that valley. The addresses I'm hearing from you guys doesn't sound like you're that close to the courts. That's my opinion. You're not here, you're not living it. So until you live it, you're not knowing what's going on in the neighborhood. And it's not fair to the people that don't play, that they have to put up with it. Shorten the hours, make a sign-up sheet. There's different things that can be done, and especially those of you who have worked in recreation. Did somebody say
No?
Oh. So that's just my recommendation. There's other ways you can do this, but the vegetation that we have is not cracking it, okay? Especially as far down the street that I am.
Thank you. I can't read the last name. It's Sally
Miller.
Yeah, okay, it's Miller, okay.
Pretty easy.
Well, I thought that maybe.
Smith, Miller, it doesn't matter.
But I thought maybe it was, but I wanted to make sure. So,
Oh,
all right, so give your name and address, please.
I've also written.
Your name and
Oh,
address.
Sally Miller, 321 Pacific Way. We have a family home there. Family has been coming here, my father as a child. So we've been coming here for over 100 years. And we built that house 26 years ago. And tennis courts were there. And then fast forward, the water treatment came. And they were wonderful to work with because they realized it was an eyesore and they did things to make it, make the appearance look good. Well, fast forward, pickleball arrives and I play it. So I'm the first to say I like it. But I'm sitting on my deck at 8 o'clock in the morning last week where it was 86 degrees at one point, and all I hear is this ping, 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 and I've heard it all summer long, and I'm tired of it. And so all of a sudden I'm hearing about 2 more courts, and you're right, the vegetation does nothing, absolutely nothing. And so I just think in order to get along with the whole community, not just the pickleball people, because like I said, I like it. You have to keep things the way they are. And also, another idea is not at 8 o'clock in the morning, thank you. Maybe go from 10 till 5 o'clock, because we like to sit outside and have cocktails at 5 o'clock. And what do we hear? Ping, 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 ping. So, you know, you have to be respectful of the homeowners too. Okay, that's all I'm asking. Thank you.
Thank you. The last one I have on my list is I think I have Ken or Catherine Murphy.
They left.
They left, okay, all right.
There was somebody,
They were.
I know, there's somebody on the line.
Oh, so thank you. I told you, I forget. All right, so I have opponent out here.
Chad.
Chad?
Hello, I'm Deb Papadopoulos. I wrote a letter. I'm an opponent.
Please give your address.
1978 Ocean Avenue, Gearhart.
Okay. Did you want to say
Wally
anything?
is a tremendous sportsman and an enthusiast for this sport, but I'm looking at the layouts, and that's my problem with this proposal for the permanent court arrangement. The permanent court arrangement has a 3-foot clearance on the west wall to the concrete wall to the first sideline of the first court. 3 feet between the two courts, 3 feet between this new fence that goes vertically throughout the entire tennis court. That's a 4-foot wall. I don't know if anyone realized that. And then 6 feet is taken off the sideline clearance of the tennis court. And the 12 feet on the west side is the only clearance that remains and is not touched. And so you'd say, well, with this new fence that runs north to south, that should keep the balls from going, into the tennis court. But I can see 3 feet is nothing when you're faced with that block wall of the Water Resources Center. I mean, I don't want to jam my shoulder into that. I've talked to Wally about this, and I thought that the second proposal that we're talking about, or an alternate, would be a temporary court striping over the second tennis court would be more agreeable, would keep the clearances as they are, full and wide for everyone. Just would have to figure out times and priorities for the tennis court. And I'm hoping that the planning people looked at this marked up site, the map for the plan. Did you reference it before you made any decisions on this?
No decisions have been made.
Has anyone looked at the plan that Wally provided or that I provided?
Yes, we are supplied with all documentation, yes.
I'm not hearing anyone.
Do you have any other comments?
I'm not muted.
We can hear you.
15 seconds.
And then yeah, all right. Are there any other opponents out there? Chad?
Garrett, can you hear us?
Garrett?
Yeah, I can hear you fine, and I don't see any raised hands.
I don't know what's happened here. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, your time is up.
Hello?
I'll
Text her.
I'll send Miss Papadopoulos a message with the contact information we have from her written testimony, just to let her know what we're doing, okay?
All right, thank you, Garrett.
You're welcome.
All right. So now is the time Mr. Hamer, if you'd like to make a rebuttal. Unless there's any neutral comments, I'm sorry, I always have to ask for neutral comments. All right, then is there anything that you would like to say further?
Well, as far as rebuttal, I totally agree. I don't disagree with anything about the noise. And I understand what you're saying about people.
Yes,
who
be
live close.
twice as loud now.
Okay, but I can't, only one person can speak here, and what's behind you?
No, it was.
It's behind you.
Yeah, so I mean, I felt
Can you
like.
stand up so we can hear you?
Sure, I just felt like, you guys, when we talked, when I talked, I was trying to say that we're in this together, we're listening to all the complaints totally. So I want you guys to know that that's where we're at, okay? And, so that's one thing. And I talked to the gal that was on the computer, that talked to us. I think she has a very valid idea. She talked to me about 3 or 4 months ago about it. And so, again, I'm saying that we're not hung up on having 4 permanent courts at all. I just want you guys to know that there's no hang up on that, because one, we know it's more expensive and stuff, and there might not be as much flexibility. We have not gotten to this point, though. This is the farthest we've ever gotten with the whole idea. So I think that, I mean, Andrew pointed out that what our least is, and if we can get 2 courts back, fine. If we get 4 temporary courts, fine. If you guys decide 4 permanent courts, whatever works to the best for everybody. And any way that we could deal with the noise. So that's my comment once again, that we're here to work with people. Maybe you guys say no, but we're here to work with people, not oppose people. So I hope you guys feel that way.
Mr. Hamer?
Yeah.
Stay standing.
Okay.
I have a question for you, and it's been repeated, and so I'm getting a different picture now. You have a group of, say, 20 serious pickleball players. And so you send out texts and say you wanna go play pickleball, whatever, you show up. And you have a system.
Mhm.
Liz explained it very carefully, how, okay, we just rotate through.
Yeah.
But then people brought up about people coming from out of the area. But
those are visitors.
Okay,
Yeah.
no, but that's where I see the problem, is not the visitors coming, but the visitors sitting on the court for 2 hours.
They wouldn't sit.
Well, they would play on the court, let's say. Do you see where I'm going? Is
No.
that you have, you're saying you wanna work with us and the noise and you wanna work that out and everything else and the hours and everything.
Mhm.
And so we would say, okay, pickleball is only from 10 to 5, and your group would understand that. But with these other people coming in,
Good question.
will they care even?
Well, they'd have to follow the signage. If we put signage up,
Right, but who would enforce that?
Exactly.
well,
Yeah.
Guys,
Everyone else is
everybody
talking.
needs to be quiet, please.
no, that's a really good question. That's something that we'd have to work that out. I don't know how you enforce it,
Okay.
but usually I know our pickleball folk, if it says 10 to 4, that's what they're gonna do.
I don't have any doubt that you do
Yeah.
that.
But it's the, like Eric was saying, you guys can't control second home folks coming down for a vacation
No,
and wanting to play pickleball or tennis. But we have to follow that sign. So I don't know exactly how you enforce that time, but I think that's a really good idea.
okay.
Mhm.
Okay.
Could I ask a question?
Terry, you would like to ask a question? Yes.
I would. I might make a suggestion. You talked about doing all these things to solve the problems with the sound and all
Mhm.
that. Why don't you consider withdrawing your application and then come back when you can walk in and show that you've been able to remediate all these problems that we're talking about?
Well, okay, sure. The one thing about the time, I think that's a city's decision. That's not my decision, right? Right? I don't know. I mean, doesn't the city?
If they're denied, they can't come back for a year. Is that correct?
Correct.
So if we deny you tonight, you can't come back for a year. So what I'm offering you, withdraw your application, do your homework, show how you can solve all these sound problems, the time problems. I mean, right now you're asking for pickleball from 8 in the night or in the morning till 8 at night.
I never said that.
Well, I've got a letter here from Andrew that is suggesting that.
Oh.
So I'm just offering you an out, because if you get denied tonight, and then you're overturned by or upheld by the city council, you're out of the game for a year. So what I'm doing is offering you an opportunity to solve your problem, so you can come back and say, hey, these guys did a good job. They changed the paddles, they did all this stuff. The neighbors aren't bothered anymore, and then you'll probably get it approved. But it's up to you.
Okay.
There was someone else, John, did I see your hand?
Yeah, if I could just ask you a question, sure. First of all, I appreciate the attitude you bring to the table, so it's very much appreciated. I happen to, as I said at the beginning, when you heard me, I literally live closer to this than probably anybody else in this room, so I'm aware of the noise.
Sure.
Very well. Are you potentially creating, in an effort to create a social environment for your group, which I much appreciate, compounding your own problem, like all coming in together? You know, you put the text out and you say, oh, let's all show up and have a good time together. If you said, let's just 8 of us at a time show up, and that's the 10 o'clock section, and the next day you want to play come at 2 o'clock. Yes, it's much less of a social event for you, but this is what queuing theory is about. I mean, this is, you spread out the demand on the courts, you may begin to solve some of your own problem.
We've done that.
I can't, he's being recorded, okay?
I'm done.
All right. Dawn,
Well, I would just suggest, Terry does bring up a valid point, that is the rules and the regs of denied application. I'm not saying that's gonna happen, but I think you can create the room on this side a little bit. I think, you know, your sincerity with dealing with the neighborhood is real, and the neighborhood concerns are also real. So we're kind of at this impasse, is the way I'm reading it. And maybe it's a good problem to have, but if there's a chance to work with the city on putting some of those fence slats in, getting some experience with that new ball and that kind of stuff, and then talking to your neighbors and seeing how that goes. That, to me, seems like that's actually some of the stuff I wrote down, like recommend to have that kind of stuff happen, would be definitely in your favor. I don't think anybody's against recreation and sport and activity and exercise, but there is just, we also are concerned about what the neighborhood feels, right? And I know you are too, so. So maybe communicating with Chad Sweet about how part of the city on that is, and some of the grant money we suggested. Anyway, that's just my 2 cents.
The grants, what I understand, the grant has been accepted. You know, the Oregon Parks and Rec grant, the city, I was talking to Christie the other day, and that's, so the resurfacing and the relining of everything is paid for. That's what I understand.
that is correct.
Yeah.
Okay, Paulina, you want to say something?
Question, if the grant is used just to repaint and resurface, does that require a conditional use permit? Questions for Garrett.
No.
Yeah, so if the intent is to repaint and resurface for changing the use of the court to pickleball, and that the nature of that request or that action is to change the use of the park to another park and recreation use, in particular one that has more impacts than the current use of that space. And that's, you know, in the spirit of what we're doing here is, yes, requiring a conditional use permit for that.
For the increase to 4 over 2, but if the grant is used to just do 2 and keep 1 remaining tennis, is a conditional use required? To keep the uses the same as they are now?
Yeah, so that you'd still just have a total of 2 pickleball courts, but they'd be permanently there instead of tennis. Is that what you're considering?
No,
Um,
no, I'm just saying, if we decide to resurface using the grant monies and keep the existing 1 tennis court, 2 pickleball courts, does it require a conditional use?
I wouldn't recommend that a conditional use permit be required in that case.
Okay, thank you.
And Ken, on the same.
Oh, Russ is
This
speaking.
is Russ talking. If you mentioned your nets, your temporary nets are broken, can that grant money, I don't know if it's for Garrett or for you, can the grant money be used, or was the grant money used to buy the temporary nets?
We didn't have a grant when we first started 4 years ago. We, through the teacher at Seaside High School, through the city, we were able to pay for the striping of the 2 courts and the new nets. So it was a kind of duo work on it.
I see. Wow.
Can I ask another question?
Yes, John, I'm sorry.
I realize this would not in any way address the goals of your organization, as you've expressed them. But if we're not inclined, if the potential vote might be against you here, because I think Paulina's question is, if we just leave everything alone, we could have fresh new stuff, then we wouldn't even be here. Another option would be that doesn't impact the noise really much at all, in a negative way, is that you get permanent pickleball courts, 2 of them in the same place the temporary ones are today. Because I would agree with your perspective, at least I think the implied perspective, that there aren't that many tennis players anymore. I watch, I'm right across the street.
Yeah, you're right.
So maybe a good thing for you guys would be to get 2 permanent pickleball courts where they are now, that are properly lined, you don't have these double lines all over the place, it's easier to play. It doesn't impact the noise issue, we can use the funding to get permanent nets put in. So I just want you to consider that as a possibility, as a positive.
Yeah. Would that mean that we still have to come back with that proposal? Is that like what you're saying, Terry?
Yeah, I think if you sort out, you've got what, 40 people who've written letters against you. And you're sitting here telling me you want everybody to get along. So you've heard what the problems are.
Yeah.
You're a problem solver. Why not go withdraw your application, go and solve these problems, show that they have been solved, and come back and everybody will be happy. But if you get denied tonight, and the city council upholds it, you can't come back for a year.
Yeah. Can I ask a quick, I appreciate what you're saying, Terry. Can I ask a question?
You can,
The grant money's coming.
as I was told today,
Right?
and Chad double checked me on this, but as I was told today, there was grant money and it was for specifically resurfacing the basketball and current tennis / pickleball courts and to repaint them the way they are. Is that correct, Chad? Is Chad there?
Yes, ma'am. Sorry, I had to move into the parking lot here.
I'm sorry.
Yeah. No, that's all right. The hotel's having a little bit of internet access issue here, but yeah, the grant money is to use to resurface the courts. We could resurface it with additional money to take care of 2 additional courts, or we could leave it the way that the courts are and resurface it with the grant money that we received. It's flexible. The purpose of the grant was to get people out and playing. That's what they want.
It's answered. Questions? Did you have a question, Russ?
No, well, I guess, yeah, I do have a question. If your request is denied, and then maybe this is a request to Chad, the status quo stays the same. Is that correct? Okay.
But we still have to deal with the noise. That's
No,
an
I
issue there
understand.
for, which I think we should try to.
That would be great.
Then do you deal with the noise and come back and ask what you're asking for now? So you can deal with it.
Did you want to say something, Paulina?
Can I ask a question of Chad? Chad, is there money in the city budget to potentially purchase, the,
Yes.
no, the,
Slat.
slatting? And, potentially purchase permanent nets?
I think that the permanent nets would only come into effect if we decided to allow these pickleball courts and to go fully with permanent nets within them. Otherwise, I would suggest that no matter what we do, we spend some time and maybe forego those nets and just stay with the temporary nets to see how things work out and to play. It gives us a little bit of flexibility. There is money in the council budget for parks work. I'm not sure what the slats cost. I don't think they're that expensive. We can do something like that, or they also make some wind netting that might help as well. But there's a couple different options, and we could probably do it, yes.
And you could pay for signage that had etiquette rules, like low volume brackets or low noise brackets or low noise.
We could.
wall. We have the money for that.
Yeah, we could. We're already redoing some of the signs, but yes, we could do that. No problem.
Okay, let me do, just wait a second, John. I've got a hand raised there. Is that?
It's Garrett.
It's Garrett?
Yeah.
Garrett has his hand raised, okay. Garrett, do you want to say something?
Yeah, I just wanted to clarify, there was some discussion about if the request is denied, having to wait a year to apply again. And I just wanted to clarify that this is the planning commission's decision to make. And so that year that you would have to wait as the applicant, that would start at the time that the planning commission makes a denial. It's not after the city council upholds the planning commission's decision on appeal, which might have been suggested. It's a planning commission decision tonight. If it's denied, you have to wait a year to apply again. And I also don't want you as the applicant to feel pressured to do that. You asked for this proposal, and you have your hearing here for the planning commission to make a decision. So I'll leave it at that. Thank you.
Okay, all right, John.
This is for Chad.
Is it okay if I sit down?
Yes, you're starting. You may say, you're getting old, I know. No, I know.
Chad, I don't know if this is more in the category of advice, but per Terry's point, if we end up at a point where some more evaluation of this ends up happening and maybe some more noise abatement process occurs or efforts occur, I would recommend some kind of a acoustic study. I don't know if that's an expensive thing to do. I would think you just put a mic up and you spend a weekend listening to it. Because we have to have a baseline. If we're gonna try to fix something, we have to know if we're fixing it. So I would just like to recommend that if we kind of like when you put the traffic lines down, the rubber things that people run over, we do that for a reason. We've got to get a baseline to address changes that we might want to make. So if we end up in a position where the applicant may or may not withdraw, it's entirely up to them, and resubmit something in the future, I would suggest that we get some kind of a baseline of this problem that everybody's complaining about needs to be measured in some way.
The baseline, the sound of birds.
I see that, and that's something that we might be able to do. Engineers always sound expensive every time we bring them in, but I think that, we haven't received any complaints until this issue came to the city. We would have worked towards taking care of some of the noise abatement issues if we had known or been aware of them. But like I said, until these letters started coming in, there was only 2 other times within the 3 years that people were playing that noise became an issue. So we haven't done anything with it.
Okay. All right. You've said what you'd like to say.
I didn't appreciate your comment there, Terry, to be honest with you. You know, it would be okay if we kind of as a group and then come back and you know, talk to you guys about whether we pull the application or not. Would that be okay? Or
Start the clicker, 5 minutes.
sure, right? It probably wouldn't take longer than that.
Yeah.
No.
Would it be okay if we just, because I don't want to make that
Wait,
decision by myself.
okay. I need to follow some guidelines here. So you are saying, what would you like to do? So we can make sure we all understand.
Okay.
What do you want to do?
Well, that's what I was gonna ask. I
You
don't wanna-
want to talk to your parties.
Yeah.
All right, then this is appropriate. We're going to take a 5-minute break. We've all been sitting here. We need to stand up and stretch. We are going to take a 5-minute break and we'll reconvene at 4 till 8. I've given you 5 minutes.
Sounds good, thank you.
Whatever you
Hey, Angelina, can you hear me?
He may have muted, so they might not be able to talk right now.
All right.
I got it on my phone.
whoever just came on their phone, go ahead and push mute. We can hear you talk back there.
Thank you.
Chaz, what was it you were saying?
Well, you don't have to, if somebody.
Did you hear what he said, Jared?
Yeah, hey, so we just had somebody join on the phone, and we were reminding them that they weren't muted. I would also say, if commissioners are deliberating on the application, they should stop until.
Can I get everybody's attention, please? Everybody, Jared's got something he's gotta say.
I was just gonna, I should have spoken up before, but we shouldn't be probably talking about the application unless we're all in the room and in the hearing deliberating. So just for what time is left in our break, let's not talk about the application.
So our break is done. Have the rest of them left and gone? Oh, here they come. All right. Okay, so we're reconvened. We took our little break, and that's quite Robert's rules, so we're good with it. So, Mr. Hamer, you had a conversation with your group.
Yes.
Would you like to share it?
Sure.
All right, please.
We decided we'll pull the application and try to mediate some of the issues that are there.
Okay. So noted. The application has been withdrawn. Do I need to do anything else, Garrett?
No, you can close the hearing.
Okay, I will close the public hearing.
Trees.
We will.
Can I say one more thing?
You may.
I mean, I was encouraged by pretty much the whole thing. I was just a little discouraged by a couple of comments that were uncalled for. And it's discouraging when you're in government and you're a leader.
That was uncalled for.
Excuse me.
It's just discouraging.
This is Mr. Hamer's time to speak.
Yeah, it was just a little discouraging. You know, I guess I expect more.
All right. Thank you for your comments. Thank you for the people who showing up tonight. This is how we work through things. I hope that we can work through things for you because we all see your sincerity and we appreciate you coming tonight to present this.
Thank you.
Thank you. I closed it. I closed it.
Thank you.
I closed it.
Thank you.
I closed it.
Andrew, it's very draft. You came over and looked.
I did, thank you.
Yeah,
I'll remember that.
I'm sure you will.
Okay, we have one more issue in front of us tonight, the tree committee process draft ordinance modification. We received the part that was changed. Essentially, what was changed is that it would be the permitting process. It also clarifies where the 12-month period starts. What we need to do tonight, okay, the words did come out right, is that we need to see if this meets what we're looking for. And if so, we'll take a vote on it with the motion, and then we will have a public hearing on it next month because that's what we have to do anytime we change ordinances, have a public hearing. So I don't have anything to add I do realize it becomes a little difficult to read in this format and it's small printing and
I tried to go that this.
I know, my eyes don't always read it too much, but you can see the parts that have changed. So are there any, you've read through it? Tom, please send us a comment, but I don't believe we need to worry. He said, should we also reference the neocoxy 50-foot setback zone in the ordinance? I don't think we do. We don't need to reference the 30, Garrett, the 50-foot setback.
No, so this is the scope of the amendments that we had discussed was just in preservation and removal of trees.
Right.
We weren't addressing trees in the lake and wetland overlay zone or other special areas where trees are dealt with.
Okay. So they have done it as minor and major tree removal permits. The minor one is 5 or less trees. The major is more than 5 trees. More than 5 is going to come before this commission. If it's less than that, then it will be a permitting process, so the city will know what is happening. I think that is, I believe that's what the issue is. It's just the knowledge of what's going on, so we can just have some control over it and actually know when those trees are removed. So someone just come along. I did it in February, now I want to do it, or whatever. It puts some specifics there. Are there comments? I'm looking, Alina, yes.
Should we not have the definition of minor and major up there under section B definitions? I mean, you could take a minor or a major, it could mean the size of the tree, or, I mean, unless you define major or minor, how do you know?
Someplace in here, because I knew it was.
I think it's on there. Garrett,
Yeah,
Well,
so
Sarah-
we've essentially dealt with it in line in the text so that people don't have to cross-reference definitions. So we'll take your direction and we can add definitions if you'd like us to, but under what's labeled as section D requirements, number 2, 1 or more minor tree removal permits may be granted for the removal of up to 5 total trees within any 12-month period. And then in number 3 below that, removal of more than 5 trees within any 12-month period may be permitted as a major tree removal permit. If you think that there could be confusion with others reading this and that definitions would help, we can do that.
As long as it's clear to everybody. The other comment I have is, I put this under number 2, and it's similar to what Tom was saying. On the 1 or more minor tree removal permits may be granted, blah, blah, blah. I said, I just added something like, or other restrictions such as riparian or aquatic zone. Because, and I understand that you can't necessarily, I mean, is there a permit already in place if I need to have a tree go down that's in the riparian zone?
Yeah, so we can
Because it's been an
cross-reference requirements in other parts of the code as an educational matter to make sure that applicants reading it don't get confused and think, oh, anywhere in the city, this is all that's required. But it is the case that if the code requires, if the zoning code has extra requirements for cutting trees in a wetland, for example, those requirements apply whether or not we say so here. And so saying so here adds cross-referencing. It can help people understand that they need to look somewhere else in the zoning code if they're dealing with a wetland, for example, or a riparian area. It also adds to the code's complexity and things that need to be updated in the future when other parts of the code are changed. It's basically, it's your all's discretion on whether or not you'd want to do that.
I think it's important to have cross references because I know we have had issues with trees in the riparian zone that City Hall knew nothing about, trees that were being taken down. So I would want to be sure that any tree that meets these criteria requires that permit. That's all I'm saying.
All right, well, in the next draft, we can add some additional language that addresses that interest.
But isn't cutting in the riparian zone is more restrictive than cutting what's described in this text?
That is true.
Right, but do you always know about it? Is there a permit issue
When we
for
get
it?
something that's brought in, we check everything that would apply. So the first thing we do is we pull up the GIS and then we open up all the layers. So we know if it's in a wetland, if it's in a flood zone, if it's next to the epoxy, if it's next to the other, I don't know what it's called, but we
So
look
it'd
at
be
all of
like
that.
for
It's
a
procedure.
development, for building
Yeah.
a house.
Yeah.
But I have trees in the riparian zone. If I don't have to get a permit for it, how are you gonna know I'm gonna cut it down?
Well, this process that we put in place would make it to where you would have to get a permit. So
Okay.
when you come in, the second that we get that, even if it's one of 5 trees, we would look at that to make sure and
All right,
we would
so
deny
it's just redundant.
Yeah.
Okay. That's all.
All right, Terry,
I guess it's 3 removal, and it's, the decision to grant it is up to the planning commission. Is that really a job the planning commission wants, or should it belong to Chad? So I think he makes the decisions.
which section are you in, Terry?
D3.
Requirements, section 3.
3,
It says
okay, that's for a major removal.
the planning commission may grant or deny a request for a major tree removal.
Yes,
Does the planning commission really want to do that?
yes.
I believe it already comes to you guys.
It always does come to us. That's not a change, that's what's already
Okay,
there.
that's fine. That's my only comment.
Yes, all right. So John, do you have anything? Don, do you have anything? Russ? No, fine, do you have anything further? Great. I need. Thank you, Garrett. We're now going to maybe have a motion. Do I have any motion so we can move this process forward?
So moved.
Terry has moved to accept the draft as presented. Would that be correct? Do I have a second?
Second.
John has seconded. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay. Awesome. We will have a public hearing in November. Present this to the community. And I hope that they see that this has value for the future preservation of our trees. We have no further new business. Do we have any concerns of the commissioners tonight? No concerns. We have no questions for land use attorney. The meeting is adjourned at 8:10. Thank you, everyone, for attending tonight. Thank you to the audience.
Hi, you guys.
They would have ended up waiting a year.
Hasta la vista.
Yeah, I'm waiting for you to, don't let it keep
Yeah, you
recording.
better walk me back.
I'm gonna call you.
Thank you, Angelina. Thank you, Garrett. Thank you,
Yeah.
Planning Commission.
Jenny,
Bye.
Thank you. Good night.
one more and I'm out of here.